Hi, friends. Welcome to Sustainably Speaking, a podcast designed for the environmentally curious. I'm Sequoia, and every episode we're going to talk about topics that relate to the environment, sustainability, politics sometimes, and people. We're committed to bringing you the truth in bite-sized pieces, telling you why the topic matters and what you can do about it. And we're always going to try and end on a good note. I hope this podcast serves as a safe space for you where you can come without judgment to learn, to get resources, and to get curious. There's no perfect guidebook to sustainable living, and there's no perfect way to do it. That's not what this podcast is about. This podcast is about learning without feeling overwhelmed or judged. The information you need to join the climate movement and to live a more sustainable life is out there, and it doesn't need to be scary or daunting. It can be quick, clear, and consumable. We're going to start off our first episode talking about a topic that I think is really important: privilege. I truly don't believe that we could go on to any other episode about any other topic before talking about this one. We need to address that sustainable living is a privileged lifestyle. And I recognize that some of the topics that we're going to cover in future episodes aren't going to relate to every community, and that's not okay. There's a lot of social injustices that need to be addressed, acknowledged, corrected before environmental justice can even think to come up to bat. First, I want to get a baseline of what sustainability is. Almost 40 years ago, the United Nations defined sustainability as being able to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And I think that definition of sustainability is really beautiful because it touches on a few things. Thinking about future generations feels like the epitome of sustainability. It needs to sustain and be long-term. But also, meeting our needs without compromise can be dangerous. I'm thinking Amazon Prime, same-day delivery, get in my car and go, or I'll get an extra one just in case. We're so busy trying to meet our needs that we don't care or think about what that compromise is and what it means in the long term. There's a lot to unpack here, but there's this societal cloud around this whole idea. Sure, we all mostly want to do the right thing and be good people, but we have different ideas of what that might mean. But what's not so different is how we think about people who don't exactly fall into our version of good. Realistically, in order to live a fairly sustainable lifestyle, you need to make a certain amount of money, probably live in a suburb, and physically be able to participate in sustainable practices. And that feels like a lot of hoops to jump through. When someone falls short, they're unethical or they don't care about the environment. But what seems like the most obvious inequity here is the wealth gap. Of course, we all mostly want to consume things that are healthy for us, but there are people out there buying organic fruits at farmers markets, and there are people getting to the checkout line and putting items back to stay under a certain price. The system as it stands is perpetuating this idea that sustainable or eco-friendly items are elite and exclusive and upscale, but our default options are unsustainable and not eco-friendly. It keeps us in this cycle of, I don't get paid that much, so I can only afford the cheap, low-quality item that's going to break in 6 months, which then forces me to buy another cheap, low-quality item that breaks in 6 months. And this idea of I can't afford to invest in items that sustain integrity over time. The system's designed to keep poor people poor and rich people rich. And I want to touch on some things that are cool if you're rich, but whack if you're poor. Reducing. The minimalist lifestyle's trendy if you're rich, but whack if you're poor. Reusing. Getting aesthetically pleasing containers to reuse is cool if you're rich, but reusing Cool-Whip containers that I've already bought is whack or seen as poor. Recycling's cool if you're rich, but returning pop bottles is whack if you're poor. Thrifting is seen as a hobby if you're rich, but grungy if you're poor. Also, hot take, I think that we abuse the thrifting system. The trend influences people to thrift more, which raises prices, and also convinces people to overconsume items that they don't actually need. Instead, we could look at vintage stores that have more upscale items at higher prices that we can afford. And I know we love a deal, but do we love a deal because it justifies the item that we're buying that we feel bad about buying because we don't really need? Like, it's okay to want a deal and it's okay to thrift because we should be buying things secondhand, but we need to be more conscious and mindful about what we're actually buying. None of this is bad. We just need to acknowledge that this is an eco-trend. And repurposed clothing. Repurposed clothing, when you're rich, is seen as unique and stylish, but can kind of look like hand-me-downs or whack if you're poor. A few other honorable or unhonorable mentions that I wanted to make to the privileged argument is time and the physical ability to participate. I get asked a lot how I can be a full-time employee and a full-time student and still have time for stuff like this. But I'm incredibly blessed by the universe with a great partner that helps me in life and a great boss and job that allow me to be myself and be flexible. But I also don't have kids or major responsibilities outside of homework. And that's not the case for everyone. People have kids, second jobs, they're caregivers, they're battling depression or invisible illnesses that take up a lot of their time. Not every argument can be solved with if they wanted to, they would. We can also assume that not everyone is able to just do everything that we think that they can. Some people physically cannot ride their bikes to work or take public transit or carpool. Public transit can be hard for people with accessibility resources like wheelchairs, and carpooling doesn't make sense if I have to drop my kids off at daycare or at school. Growing your own fruits and vegetables can be hard if you have arthritis, and eating vegan or sustainably can be hard for someone with sensory issues or food aversions. None of this is as simple as you just have to do it. It's an exclusive part of the eco trend to assume that everyone can easily switch over to a sustainable lifestyle when society has stacked the cards against us with the system as it stands. What's important to remember is that this is not a one-size-must-fit-all lifestyle. I'll always tell you to do what's best for you, and maybe that's one step at a time. Maybe that's just learning what you can while you can until you're ready to take a step. Maybe you're ready now and you want to commit to a big change. Whatever it is, living a sustainable lifestyle should look like creating a lasting routine that contributes in a meaningful way towards the environment in ways that make sense for you. I'll be here to help you along the way, giving you resources and information to make the best decisions for yourself and for the planet. So here's what you can do. Take a moment to really acknowledge the privilege that you have. Sit in it for a bit and think about how that impacts the things that you're able to do and how you treat people. Start talking about it. There is nothing the system hates more than people bringing light to the dark stuff that they do. Let's keep talking about this. Some good news to think about. Recent studies have shown that protests are able to change how the media is portraying these topics and what the public opinion is of them, particularly when it comes to climate change, even when dismantling tactics are used by the media. One study even showed that votes for the Green Party increased in locations where climate and environmental protests happened. Talking about these topics works. And I appreciate you taking the time to learn this with me. Keep an eye out for our next few episodes, because that's all I have for you today. Like, subscribe, comment what you think. Let me know. Thanks, everyone.